Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Center is reportedly considering introducing detailed new guidelines, including a possible 20-year cooling off period for serving and retired armed forces personnel seeking to write and publish books amid the controversy over former Army Chief Manoj Naravane's unpublished memoir, Four Stars of Destiny. Now, according to the reports which have been published in various websites and across the news platforms, this issue was discussed at a recent cabinet meeting where several ministers favored a mandatory cooling off period for those who have held positions of power, including senior military officers, before authoring books on sensitive subjects. A formal order could be issued soon. That is what the officers are saying. And but this matter was not part of the cabinet's official 27-point agenda, and it arose as part of the general discussions. And this, of course, is a fallout of the Naravane book controversy. But this kind of a 20-year cooling off period, how logical is it? How rational is it? Is it a violation of the fundamental rights of the veterans as well? Joining me this evening is Brigadier Ajit Apte. So thank you so much for joining. We have author and policy expert Pushparaj Deshpande. Thank you so much. And TK Rajlakshmi, senior editor at the Frontline magazine. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll begin with Brigadier Apte. How do you see this 20-year cooling off period, and why only for the retired officials? If the judges and the if the and also other people, if for them, if there is no cooling off period, why only for these retired officials?
Thank you, Neelu. But as you have brought out, this policy statement or order has not yet been issued. It is still under consideration. Why it is being applied only for military officers, I'm not too sure.
No,
But I
no, it
guess,
covers other retired officials as well.
yes, so that means it covers all government officials, whether
Yes.
they are from the Foreign Service, Indian Administrative Service, or any other government service, including the three services of the armed forces. Am I right? Yeah. So uh, the order is not out, and the government would know best what are their reasons or compulsions to be wanting to issue such an order. But before that, let me just clarify. As of now, as long as a veteran writes a book or a journal or a publication which does not pertain to national security or any such topic which is sensitive in nature, we are all governed while we were in service and even now throughout under the Indian Officials Secrets Act of 1923, which prohibits all of us to write anything which is sensitive from a national security perspective, which is likely to be harmful from a national interest, and which may have certain information of operational sensitivity of the armed forces or of other domains which have security implications. So, other than that, any officer or other rank is at liberty to write, and
No,
writing
but
a memo.
Brigadier Apte, we all know that this the order which the government is mulling to bring in, this 20-year cooling period, is obviously the fallout of General Naravane's book. Now, do you think that this memoir which General Naravane has written, has it got to do anything with the national security? Does it have, is it posing a threat to the national security?
See, the very fact that the book has not yet been sanctioned or approved. So obviously there would be something which the government of India is mulling over, and they know best because, see, as of now, we don't know what are the contents of that book. So it'll be premature to pass any comments on that. I don't know. I'm a veteran for the past 20 years, and I do know that there are books which have been published by certain officers on Operation Sindoor or on any other such military matters. But probably those books got cleared because there was nothing sensitive in them, which is consequential to national security. Now, What General Naravane's book contains, we are not aware. It has not been published. So I think let's await, because the government knows best why that book has not been cleared till now. And if they have thought of this
No,
new
but
order,
Brigadier Apte, how do you see this cooling off period? Is it logical? Is it rational? This 20 years period? Because many people who are into storytelling, they say that this is almost like a ban on inconvenient storytelling. If you have something inconvenient to tell, where the government's accountability is held, and obviously for certain reasons, government would not want to discover or to talk about this. So obviously you bring in a ban like this, that okay, 20-year cooling off period. Obviously, so by within 20 years, the story will fade away. People would not remember the context, and obviously the officials or the army veterans would grow older, and so it's almost like making everything obsolete and no accountability held.
see, Neelu, I'll take an example of the 1962 Sino-Indian conflict. There was a very senior general who has written a book after a cooling period of more than 20 years. I will not disclose his name, but a very senior officer. 62 finished, and nearly 30 years after that, he published his book. And the reasons, what we heard was that firstly, he didn't want to write it in a haste. He wanted to absorb what others have mentioned about that particular conflict. Secondly, perhaps he thought it best to write without hurting anyone's sentiments, because most of the people who played the key roles in 1962 had possibly gone. And he wrote the book. I have read the book, and I find nothing wrong in it. And he did that self imposition of about 20 years plus. But till now, there is no bar. But if the government thinks of 20 years, definitely they would have gone through various pros and cons and arrived at that. Why not 10 years? Why not 25 years? So 20 years logic, I'm not aware of, but there must be some
Also,
reason.
so that means that the officials can publish their book only when they are in their late 70s or mid 80s, which means
No,
looking
it's,
at the retirement
I,
age.
no, 1 minute. I don't think that would be the reason. Books which would contain sensitive nature of information or operational related actions. But if a person, I'm sure, who wants to write a book fiction, or wants to write on environment, or wants to write his own story which has no consequential impact of any sensitive nature information, I don't think there would be a ban on that. This must be as a cooling period for books which are likely to be written, which pertain to professional actions, where a person has held an important appointment in the government or in the military. And that would be a period of vetting by the government to ensure that something which is sensitive is not put in the public domain. This could be the reason. Otherwise, a person who wishes to write on any other topic which is of general interest, I don't think they would impose a ban on that.
All right, let me come to Pushparaj now. Pushparaj himself is an author. He's been working with a lot of publishers. Pushparaj, how do you see this cooling off period, though the order has not come yet? But given the fact that a 20-year cooling off period, how much of logic does it really make?
Hi, Neelu. Good afternoon to you, our panelists, and our viewers. See, firstly, if the BJP government were to enforce this rule, and the Brigadier is perfectly right, this is still under consideration, it would effectively consign transparency and accountability to the dustbin of history. Because if a public servant were to retire when they're 65, as you yourself pointed out, they will not be able to publish any of their accounts till they're in their mid 80s, way after any sins of commission and omission by any government are beyond rectifying. Now, isn't this a clever way of just protecting the corrupt and covering up any mistakes? And just checking, but isn't India's national struggle still Satyamev Jayate? Right? Secondly, I don't recall the BJP government making any fuss over the publication of the accidental prime minister, which they actively leveraged to vilify Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and a whole range of other books and reports which they misuse to caricature and vilify the UPA government. So I don't see why the BJP didn't make a fuss then and now is making a fuss when they are in the crosshairs. Thirdly, why doesn't the BJP government also apply the same logic of cooling off to retired bureaucrats and officers? I mean, I know for a fact that RK Singh was Home Secretary, Hardeep Puri was Ambassador, Parambir Singh was Mumbai Commissioner, Dr. Jaishankar was Foreign Secretary, Ranjan Gogoi was Chief Justice, Ashwini Vaishnav was also a bureaucrat. All of them were given plum political assignments. Of course, Vinod Rai was CAG. All of them were rewarded with plum political assignments. Why doesn't the BJP government also put a 20-year ban on all retired officials from taking any public or political posts? I'm saying this because clearly the BJP seems to have benefited from the services of these officials who may have well compromised the functioning of government business in the UPA government. I don't see the BJP government doing that. Fourthly, you are rightly pointing out this rule is being considered in light of General Naravane's book. Keeping aside the fact that the BJP government is insultingly seeking to gag a former army chief, it's clear that the BJP government has realized that his book cannot be banned under either the Official Secrets Act, the continuing obligations of the service conduct and pension rules, or the Ministry of Defense guidelines on publications, or even for that matter, although this is not applicable here, but the Central Civil Services Conduct rules. Now, clearly, the book does not disclose any classified military information or operational intelligence plans. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the book has been published because Penguin technically did pull them back after they sent them back to distributors, but the book was sent out to multiple media people by the publishers. It was also sent out to influencers. So the fact of the matter is, before it was sent out, the general who has been at the helm of the army would have done his due diligence. I'm sure he knows what the defense guidelines on publications are, or the Official Secrets Act, or the continuing obligations of the service conduct and pension rules. So he must have done his due diligence. Otherwise, Penguin would not sign any kind of contract with the general, nor would they have published it. This would have gone through multiple rounds of legal and copy editing, which means that the Penguin and the general clearly did not disclose any classified military information or operational intelligence plans. So this is clearly just an insidious attempt by the BJP government to gag the general. And in putting out this balloon of this 20-year ban after retirement, they're basically trying to send a chilling effect on any sitting official or just about to retire official or armed force officer from publishing or disclosing anything that could be potentially damaging to the BJP government. As I said, this is just a very ham-handed manner in which the BJP government is trying to safeguard its mistakes in the last 11
Right.
years.
Right. So, Brigadier Apte, do you also not see this as like pushing the accountability by 20 years? I mean, 20 years, if the officers are not able to write anything, they're not able to speak, uh, doesn't it go to show that the government doesn't want to fix accountability? And by 20 years, the officer, all the officers are not hale and hearty in their mid 80s that they will write a book. So it's almost like obfuscating the truth.
Yeah, I don't know exactly because uh, this order has not come out, but I do agree what Pushparaj is saying that the people will be in their mid 80s but there are people who are writing books. I mean, I know a few top ranking officers who've just recently written books and they're well into their 80s. So I really don't see that as a perspective. But why 20 years? Why not 10 years? This is the point which I mentioned right in the beginning. Why 20 years limit? There must be some very valid reason which would have been discussed. And let's see what the final policy comes out. But I do know that earlier there was no such policy. There was no such
Do you
policy.
think do you think that the government is going to spell out the reason, Brigadier Apte, that why a 20-year cooling off period? Do you think that they will come out with the reasoning?
I don't know, but logically speaking, if they do come out with this policy, maybe they will amplify it. And that what are the particular reasons? I mean, I don't know. I won't be able to give a comment on this right now.
All right. Rajlakshmi, I'll come to you now. What does the story look like to you? A 20-year cooling off period for the retired officials, which it's extended to the military officials as well. What does it look like? Is it like curbing the freedom of expression? How logical and how rational?
Well, it seems to have been, motivated by this particular book and this particular instance, and the and the contents of the book, which in fact, more than I think national security, have had, a potential of embarrassing the government, because the government, I mean, has been saying some things about the events that led to those particular incidents, which do not exactly exactly match the contents of the of the book. I mean, things that have come in the public domain. I mean, I don't have access to the book, but all that, we've learned from what has appeared so far. It seems that those contents are not exactly flattering, as far as the executive is concerned. And yes, this whole 20-year cooling off period, it should apply to all services. Then, for instance, judges also. For instance, Pushparaj, he did sort of list out several services, but I think, judges, and we have, in fact, police officers who in fact openly claim their allegiance. Senior police officers, I know for one, I mean, a former DGP of Kerala, who, as soon as he, relinquished his post, he immediately joined the RSS, and he said that I have always been a firm, firm, follower of the RSS, and I believe in the ideology of this, of the RSS, and I have no compunctions in, declaring that. So then one, in fact, really, wonders, if such ideological biases would have prevailed when he was in service, and whether that would have, influenced his attitude towards people from other communities, or not. I mean, of course, that's a issue of speculation, but then this issue still sort of remains, because many people, as soon as they sort of retire, of the from the central services or from the state services, I mean, of course, there are service rules that proscribe them, as long as they're in service, from taking part in, let's say, union activities, or in fact, protest demonstrations. There are all kinds of service rules that proscribe them from actively taking part in those kind of activities. but
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 effectively, Rajlakshmi, if you look at I mean, though the order is not out yet, but from whatever we can make out from the reports which are being published, does it not mean effectively that nobody who is part of the government will be able to ever write a memoir? I mean, like 20 years later, it's effectively not like a diktat that, okay, as long as you're in the government for 20 years, you would not write a book or not write a memoir.
Yeah, clearly, and I think this whole, definition, of national security, itself has been, I mean, got a wide definition. It really, I mean, it all depends on how, how it's interpreted uh, by a particular government. And especially if you have a government which is hyper, in fact, hyper, nationalistic, or hyper jingoistic, everything comes under that ambit. Anything that, for instance, we know, that universities have been labeled as anti-national. A very prominent central university in this country was labeled, as anti-national, and that we all know the repercussions that students of that university have had to face. So I'm saying that it becomes prone, to misuse, especially if it's in the hands um, of a hyper, nationalistic government, and a government which really uses jingoism to further its goals, to further its, political goals. So I'd be really, sort of careful, and in fact, circumspect when such kind of, diktats come, especially if we have, a hyper nationalistic government in place today, and which says that, that we're not going to allow, anybody to publish their memoirs, etc., under the garb of, national security. Yes, we know that there are certain things which ought not to compromise the sovereignty of this country. And as the brigadier, in fact, rightly pointed out, the Official Secrets Act is an act that does prescribe certain kinds of activities that can sort of imperil the sovereignty of this country. But then, as I said, it's prone to interpretation, I mean, the way the BNS has come into place, the way, the ambit of so many laws has now, expanded. Even if there is an intent, or even if it's not a stated intent, but if the investigating agencies feel that, that so and so uh, person, has, has the intent, the unstated intent to create harm. I think suspicion is enough. And then you have the thing about, people who are associated with those persons, who also come under the ambit. So it's really prone to misuse, and we have seen how, laws have been misused in this country. A lot, really.
Many people also feel, Brigadier Apte, that this also points out at a professional degradation, because if you're not allowed to write what you feel, and if you have to, like in the case of General Naravane, what he felt and he wrote in his memoir. Now, because of reasons, because the government is scared, it seems that the storytelling will not favor the government. So it brings in a 20-year cooling off period. So it also, does it not point to a professional degradation as well?
See, Neelu, it's like this, that now, unfortunately, or whatever it is, General Naravane has come into the epicenter of a storm about his book, which frankly had gone not, I mean, it was out of the limelight till a particular incident took place in Parliament. Till then, no one was really focusing on the book. It was put up for permission. Permission has not yet been given, and maybe it would have come in due course. We don't know. But suddenly, this event has sprung up because of something which happened about 10 days back. And we all know that. I don't have to reiterate that. But the point is that uh, he or anyone wishes to write his memoirs, which is a good thing, because posterity will know what you have done and what has gone down the line. But if at all, in that memoir, if at all, there is an odd paragraph or a sentence which the government feels is impinging on national security, or on an event which uh, is in the public domain, which is controversial, then the government has the right to say that, look, your book will be allowed with the proviso that this particular sentence or paragraph may please be amended. I mean, I'm just giving you an example. And then the book may get cleared, whether it is this particular book or any other book. Similarly, there are people who have written books wherein this particular factor has not come in, and those books have been published. And even, let me give you an example of 1962. There are books which have come out written by Brigadier John Dalby, The Himalayan Blunder. There are books which have come out in that period, and there were issues which were contentious. But whether permission was taken that time, I'm sure permission would have been taken, because 62 was something which was well known to the country, what exactly happened. So there are people who have written books down the line after 1962, and probably there was no cooling off period. That's why those books came on the stand, and they are still being referred to as military history books by people in the armed forces and even elsewhere. So I will just say one thing, that if there is anything which is objectionable, that particular paragraph or sentence may need to be amended. But 20 years, let's wait, it has not come. My guess will be that the 20-year rule will apply only for certain topics or subjects which are of national security interest, and not otherwise. This is my
No, but
conjecture.
they've made it very generalized, though the order is not out, but they say on sensitive topics. And what you are saying, that something objectionable. Now, something objectionable can be objectionable for the government if they want to obfuscate something. But a very interesting comment, I'll come to Pushparaj, and a very interesting comment from Ghazala Wahab, who's a security expert, has come. She's written in her tweet that this order is almost like you join the BJP the day after retirement and write as many books as you want on why everything is Nehru and Congress' fault. Pushparaj, what would you say?
Look,
Yes.
yeah, see, Neeluji, the BJP government can't ban any book or film that is inconvenient or unflattering to it. That's just plain authoritarian and tantamounts to censorship. Because frankly speaking, if the BJP was so concerned about contemporary events not being talked about in public discourse, because clearly that is the rule, that is the stated intent, avowed intent of this rule, that we don't want contemporary events being talked about in public discourse. Fair enough. If that's the logic, they could have also clamped down on at least 26 plus films like Dhurandhar, Uri, that hagiography on Narendra Modi that this famous actor acted in. Then similarly, 38 plus laudatory books praising Prime Minister Modi's governance. Rahul Shivshankar's book Modi and India and the Indian Renaissance, which this guy the Modi decade, which Home Minister Amit Shah launched, then Accelerating India, which KJ Alphonse Minister launched. Similarly, there are like 38 plus such books. You can't have it two ways. Either you uniformly ban all books and films talking about contemporary events for whatever logic. I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with this kind of censorship, but maybe the government has a
So
logic,
do
then
you
you
think,
do it
Pushparaj?
uniformly.
No, but do you think, Pushparaj, that the government is really scared that in 2029, now when the general elections happen, by that time, a lot of officers will have retired, and they are really scared that if this cooling off period is not put in place, they might as well come up with more dangerous memoirs.
See, this is my personal opinion. This book shook Parliament for 2 weeks, right? The problem is in the book. It is what the book is saying. It's the truth that it is dissecting. Now, if the what the BJP government is effectively saying is that we will allow the publication of any books or filming of any films which dissect or sorry which show us in a bad light, which demand some kind of questions from us or accountability 20 years later. Why? Because they are expecting that memories will fade, context will change, half the people will either be retired or dangerously old or dead, and the public interest would would be cold, right? You don't care about what happened in 2000. Now do you really care about what happened during Operation Parakram right now, or their failures in Kandahar? You won't talk about it, it's natural. Public account, the public mood moves on. So the fact of the matter is that they are doing this so that there will be zero accountability, zero transparency. Now my question is, again, to reiterate, why is the BJP government not applying this logic everywhere? You apply it to politicians from, why don't they stop politicians from writing memoirs? Why
Yeah.
don't they stop bureaucrats from joining private companies or the government services? Why is the cooling off period only for inconvenient storytellers who want to keep the truth out there, who want to genuinely do service to the nation? This is really ironic, right? The system. I mean, for a prime minister who claimed "chappan in chati hai, la lakh dikaunga," you can't be so scared of any basic courageous writing. This just smacks of fear and trying to avoid criticism and accountability. And this is from a prime minister who says, I welcome criticism.
Right. But before I take the concluding remarks from Rajlakshmi, Brigadier Apte, you have a feeling that a lot of retired officials might object to it. I know a lot of officers and retired army personnel who are part of the constitutional group. I'm sure they will not take this very lightly. Do you think there'll be a stiff opposition and the government might not bring in an order like this? Or you think that they will go ahead with this order?
See, Neelu, the percentage of officers who really wish to write uh, is quite low. I mean, there aren't many officers who wish to write on such topics. I've known a large number of army commanders, my
I know for
course.
sure that you were also wanting to write a book. You're a 1971 war veteran, sir.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, a lot of people ask me to write. I was a greenhorn in battle at 20 in battle on the Eastern Front. And I'm frankly a little lazy. So I didn't want to write. But a large number of my articles pertaining to different battles have been published in the Swarnim Vijay Varsh book, which was released by the Prime Minister in 2021. And two, three of my articles have come there, but I am in no mood to write any book. I can't write. But there are many officers like me who don't wish to write, whereas there are some who wish to write. And those who have written, they have not touched upon any sensitive issue. Their books have been published. I know that. In fact, there's a former army chief who's my coursemate. His book has been published. It went through like a shot, and there's nothing sensitive in that. So I've had a course mate who is an army chief, and I've known many army commanders. So I know what is the mood of people to write, and frankly, how many readers are there today? The art of reading has shrunk. So how many people there would be who want to write? Fine. And of course, General Naravane is one who was a former army chief. He was very keen to write a book. He's written, but let's go back. Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw never wrote a book. He's the distinguished Victory Army Chief of 1971. He was the army chief when I was a second lieutenant. He never wrote a book. Then you take it, there are so many others. Field Marshal Manekshaw's book was written by his MA, General Dipinder Singh, and by his ADC. There are hardly any army chiefs who've written a book, except for General Vij, who has written Isolated in the Ring, General VK. And there's a book written on General Tapi Raina by his MA. I know the gentleman, and I've served under General Tapi Raina during the war. He was my corps commander.
Right.
Manekshaw was my army chief. But other than that, you take so many army chiefs, none of them have written. So the art of writing is a pleasurable art, provided you feel like writing. So my point is, if anyone wishes to write, he will write. And anyone who wishes to write on sensitive topics, he knows he has to take clearance. In fact, Pushparaj brought out a valid point. He said the due diligence would have been done. We are all aware what our responsibilities are, but it just depends on what is your passion for writing. That's it.
So, Rajalakshmi, the concluding comment from you on this cooling off period for 20 years. Yes.
Well, I'd say that we can also sort of safely assume that the book, was written in national interest, and also, so I assume that it may not have been written, in national interest. So yes, people write, for various reasons. Some people write because it's a self-indulgent exercise. Some people write for fame. Some people write because they feel that, writing a book will sort of help them, in career advancement. So the various reasons for which people, may want to write a book. But if a book, I think because since we are, a democracy, so that amount of freedom also, I mean, applies to all sections of society, and he's not in service. Okay, General Naravane is not in service. He has, he didn't write that book while in service, so he didn't break any service rule as such. And as far as the contents of his book are concerned, it is I think it was I think it's a government that in fact did not perhaps have, the magnanimity to perhaps admit that it did go wrong some places, and then that the book, okay, I'm sure it can sort of dispute the facts in the book. There are ways of sort of disputing the facts in any piece of literature, and that could easily sort of well apply to this book also. The government can take General Naravane to court, saying that those facts are wrong, or that they have been misrepresented. There are, I think, various ways to sort of dispute something. I think
Right.
banning it, sort of prescribing it, or this 20-year cooling limit. These all shows. I mean, there is signs of a very insecure political dispensation, if you ask me, Neelu. Yeah.
Right. All right. So we'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Brigadier Apte, Rajlakshmi, Pushpraj. Thank you so much for joining.